guys, it's Emily from Novel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my Gaskell Books Ranked video. Don't know if that title makes sense. If not, you may see a different title in the thumbnail. Gonna decide. But here I'm going to be talking about the 6 main Gaskell novels and what I've ranked them. Now, yeah, I think there's 6 sort of main ones. And I've ranked them, I'm going to tell you from least favourite to favourite. Now, I've only read all of them once, so I think this is a video that may well get changed. The ranking may well get changed the more I read them. But I've finally read all of them, and I absolutely love them. I do want to read all of her short stories, and I need to get to them at some point, so I'm going to look for them in the charity shops. The only one that I really, really loved was Lois the Witch, because actually that was the first Gaskell book I ever read, and I read that from the library, so I think going forward, I may read some more of the Gaskell shorter novels. But, did it? In December, I read the most recent Gaskell, my sort of the final Gaskell book, and I didn't like it. So, number 6 is Sylvias Lovers. Now, apparently it's quite a dark book. Now, it is a dark book. Let's be honest, it's a very dark novel. It's a beautiful copy that I've got here. But Charlie from Charles Heathcote didn't like it as much, and to be honest, it was probably my least favourite. Yes, I read it on probably the worst month because it was like December and it's the middle of winter and I was quite down anyway. But this is Gaskell's last completed novel, so it was her penultimate book that she wrote. And it's set in Whitby, so it's quite a sort of gothic-y kind of place in the 18th century. And it's basically the story. Sylvia is loved by 2 men, her second serious cousin Philip and a charismatic sailor Charlie Kinraid. And their romances are quite different. Now, Kinraid is a very much of a charlatan, a very, like, almost, very, like, I'm trying to think. He's just a bit of a cheeky git. Didn't particularly like him. And whereas Philip is a lot more serious and he's reliable and he's dedicated to her and he thoroughly, thoroughly loves her. And yet, she obviously wants the bad boy. But then, a lot of girls do like the bad boy. And Charlie, and when one of them betrays her, her past seems fixed. And against the backdrop of the Napoleonic Wars, the ever-present threat of press gangs, the story darkens when Sylvia's father is roused into a vengeful violence. I didn't connect with Sylvia as much, and I thought that this could be a very gut book because it's got references. People have referenced it to Wuthering Heights, which is my favourite book ever. But I didn't connect with the characters as much, didn't connect with Sylvia as much as I wanted to. Thought she was being a bit of a silly Billy, to be honest, and it wasn't my favourite, to be honest, which I'm a bit gutted about. It's a good book, just to me, maybe it's something I need to reread. I think I will reread all of these at some point. Then the penultimate book that I finished as well was Ruth. I really think that I actually connected more. I found that this was darker. And it was a very dark book. And it's very much about the female protagonist. I read it in Victober. And it really does. The orphaned heroine Ruth, apprenticed to a dressmaker, is seduced and then abandoned by the wealthy young Henry Bellingham. Shamed in the eyes of society by her illegitimate son, yet rejecting the opportunity to marry her seducer, Ruth finds a path that affirms that we are not bound to repeat our mistakes. And Ruth, again, she does something very silly at the start, and she obviously has an illegitimate son, and she lives her life for her son after this, and she's very much dedicated. She protects him. She doesn't tell him he's illegitimate. She makes up a story for the background, and yeah. But she's a bit of a wally, and it's quite a tragic book. It's apparently Elizabeth Gaskell's second novel, and it's less scandalised than moved. The considered fallen woman trope is very prominent in this, and it's one, so sort of Ruth does find people, and it's quite intriguing, and it's quite another very dark novel, but it's good. It's very well written. I would say I found that Ruth was a lot more lovable than even Sylvia, in my opinion, but still not up there with my top 3. I think my bottom 3 books could really sort of jiggle around. The bottom 3 could really jiggle around in place. And then the top 3 could jiggle around. Then you've got Cranford. And now my copy has got Cranford and it's got a lot of the short stories in it. So it's got My Lady Ludlow, Mr. Harrison's Confessions, I loved Mr. Harrison's Confessions. I thought that was really funny. Cranford's very short, and then we got the cage at Cranford, which I didn't connect with as much. Cranford alone in this book was brilliant. It's very much of a short story. It's probably one of her shorter books, and that's quite good. But I didn't like all of the short stories in this book. I didn't like My Lady Ludlow. I didn't like My Lady Ludlow, but I like Mr. Harrison's Confessions. It's really weird. But Cranford's a great book. It's about, again, a very much of a community atmosphere. It's a charming novel. It's really sweet, and it's just really quite good. I don't know too much about it because I probably bought this book and then I didn't realise that there's the other. So I would like to watch the Cranford adaptation. I think there's a film that there is on that, so I would like to read that. I don't know enough about that. I didn't really connect with it as much as I wanted to. But now, I know this video is short. Sorry about this, guys. But the 3 top books are brilliant. These last 3, you'll obviously know the last 3 because they're the only 3 that I haven't talked about. And they are all absolutely bloody incredible. They are what made Elizabeth Gaskell, in my eyes, absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to reread them. Now, just to give you a heads up, I'm going to be rereading North and South for Victober this year. And I might even do a read-along for it, if you're up for it. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to. I think I spoke to Kate Howe about doing it, because normally on our read-alongs we've done Wuthering Heights and we've done Jane Eyre. This year I want to do North and South because I love that, but I'm not going to tell you where it's placed. But I will tell you that in 3rd place, Elizabeth Gaskell's her first novel, Mary Barton, was actually my first novel of hers to read. And I bloody loved it. I can't wait. I may reread this. It may be one of my rereads this year because it's just incredible. It's her first brilliant book, this is. And it's set in Manchester, so it's my first Manchester classic that I'd read. When John Barton's wife dies in childhood, his daughter Mary becomes the light of his hearth, the voice of his otherwise silent home. She is silently adored by Jem Wilson, whom she's known since childhood, yet she is determined to break away from the poverty of her background and rejects his love. Without her father's knowledge, she is courted by the self-satisfied, handsome Harry Carson, son of a rich mill owner who represents everything John Barton abhors. And unable to find work as a weaver and surrounded by poverty and starvation, John Barton becomes increasingly embittered against the riches. His efforts prove fruitless, and he's driven to commit a crime that is to have deep repercussions for all around him. I love this. The characters in this are so well written, and she's written a great heroine in Mary Barton. Mary Barton is a great, well-rounded heroine because she's not perfect, and she's just everything, because she's got her flaws, and she admits to her flaws, and she knows that she wants what's better for herself. And yeah, she goes about it the wrong way, but the way she adores her father and the way she fights for him in the end, oh my god, it's great. And then the sort of romance that she should be with Jem Wilson, but then she pulls against, and Jem Wilson's a great character, and I thoroughly love this. I really want to reread it. It's not a long book, so as to whether I reread this before October or whether it's one I save for next year, I don't know. But I thoroughly love this. It's such an incredible book. I would certainly say, if you're starting with Gaskell, start with her first book, because her first book is one of the best. And it does not let you down. It really doesn't. It's one of my favourites. Then the top 2 are really tied because I thoroughly loved them both. Obviously, I read Wives and Daughters last year, and that's my most recent of the 2 to read. But it really was a tie between these 2, North and South, and Mary Barton and Wives and Gaskell was such a close tie. But Wives and Daughters slightly won, so it's in second place. It's North and South. But this could easily top it. When I reread it, it may top it because it's such a good book. I loved North and South. It is one of her longer books because it's over 500 pages, but it's just so good. It's so good. It really does talk about the divides of the North and the South, and it talks about the classes, and you're really going into the depths of that time and that era, and it's just so well developed, and there's so many funny bits and so many bits where I cried, and you get every emotion in this book. I read it with Danny from Spinelli Speaks, Ange from Angie's Book Angie's book chatter, and I think Laura from Book Bubble, we read it. That was our first book we read as a group of us. And it's just so good. It talks about Southern-born Margaret Hale and then you got the young Northerner John Thornton and their romance that happens. And obviously, Margaret Hale has to go from the south up to the north because her father changed his job, and that's where she has to go. So back then you had to go with your family. And Margaret is compelled to move from Helstone, her beloved childhood home, to the New Forest, to Darkshire in the industrial north, when her father resigns his parsonage owing to religious doubts. You know, you're human, you can't always have your faith, so he has to leave what he does to go up north. And then she encounters John Thornton, her father's pupil, and a man of favour in the power of the master of worker. And then you have an industrial revolution, and the family tragedy causes Margaret to learn the realities of urban life. Hello, Sweet. Sweet decided to come in. Sorry, guys. And only then can a mutual understanding lead to the possibility of enduring love. And oh my God, the romance is great, and it's such a great book. And Margaret is cane floored. You do not want to see my cat's bum in your face. But yeah, I thoroughly loved this. I loved Margaret Hale. She was a great character. John Thornton is, oh my goodness, he is the epitome of one of the best. Why does she always do this? She is brilliant. Margaret Hale's great. John Barton, you love. Oh my goodness, John Thornton, sorry. It is so great. Oh, this is another one. If you want to start with Gaskell, again, another one you could easily start with. If you want to know more about industrial times in the era, if you want to learn about revolutions, if you want to learn about romance, if you want to learn about... Oh, warning, lots of death in this book. A heck of a lot of death in this book. So go into it, and nearly every chapter has got something's bloody happened in it. But it's well written, it's a beautiful book, it's an incredible book. Yes, you can tell I loved it. Then lastly, my favourite Gaskell by far is Wives and Daughters. But like I said, it is my favourite. I've only just finished it, and it is her last work. Elizabeth Gaskell didn't even get to complete Wives and Daughters, but she had all of the bits together to complete it. So I think one of her children completed it in the end and gave a rough idea of how she would have wanted it to end. This is the story about one of my favourite protagonists, Molly. Molly is one of the best characters ever, and her father is just amazing. Oh, Molly Gibson's just great, and you can't not love this. And her father, and it's about the fact that Molly's mother dies very early on in the book, and her father goes and seeks a stepmother for Molly. And then with the stepmother comes a stepsister, who's a bit of a cowbag. Not very nice, very manipulative, but Molly's father is doing this for the best. He thinks it is to look after his daughter. She needs a mother figure. But she's perfectly happy with her dad. She's got her dad and she doesn't really need anyone. And it talks about their relationships and the relationship between Molly and her stepmother. And then you've got a romance. And then Molly looks at this house and she sort of she meets all these great people. Molly Gibson's childhood. Oh my God. Molly Gibson is just one of the best characters. And then she's got some new friends at like the big house. And then one of the two sons of the big house are quite big characters. Why can I not remember their names? Because my brain is dying. But, oh. And Molly's romance is just written into this. But it's not written into it completely. It's more about the relationships in the family relationships. And the relationships between her and her stepmother. Her and her stepsister. Her and her father. And it's just such an amazing book. I thoroughly love this book, and I would recommend it to everyone. Yes, the ending is sort of only pieced together basically by what was imagined it would be ended. And if you can imagine it, if this would have ended, if Elizabeth Gaskell ended on this higher note, what else could she have created? She could have created amazing books. Now, I will also say she did write an autobiography of Charlotte Bronte, who was one of her best friends. But I didn't include this in this because I don't think that it's not one of her main novels. It's a non-fiction work. But it was a brilliant piece of work. But you can totally tell that when Elizabeth Gaskell wrote Charlotte Bronte's story, she was one of her best friends because she was very biased in a lot of how she wrote about Charlotte. Now, Charlotte is not one of my favourite of the Bronte sisters. To me, my favourite is Emily, obviously, and I loved Anne. But you could totally tell the prejudice that she had towards Charlotte. She painted Charlotte as if Charlotte was an angel when Charlotte really wasn't. But it's, again, beautifully written. She had the knowledge, she looked into it, she researched everything. And again, it is one autobiography that I would recommend. But when you go into it, you have to bear in mind that it is biased because she was very much of a friend of Charlotte's. And that was also interesting. There's loads of facts I found out about Elizabeth Gaskell. When Elizabeth Gaskell wrote about Charlotte Bronte, she also wrote about other authors of the time, like William Makepeace Thackeray, who wrote Vanity Fair, which I'm currently reading. And she wrote quite a lot about that. And there was a lot of interesting characters around that time. Now, obviously, Dickens was a London Victorian writer. Elizabeth Gaskell was from Manchester. Then you've got the Brontes, which are from Yorkshire. And so you've got the different writers from a different sort of time, places around the country. And that's quite fascinating to learn about. And Elizabeth Gaskell was a great writer. She wrote, yes, she only wrote those 6 main novels, but she wrote a lot of short stories, and a lot of which publicised. And I find her fascinating. I'd love to go up to Manchester and look at the restaurant, the Gaskell museums and things, and learn more about her. So that's one of the things I would like to go for. Would like to learn more about the Victorian authors. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling. And let me know, would you all like me to do that? Would you like me to do a read-along of North and South for Victober this year? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, lovely to hear from you all. Hope you all enjoyed this, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.